productivity is centered on focus. If you find yourself constantly distracted from your task, you will obviously take ages to complete it. However, if you find yourself in the groove, you are sharply engaged in your work, incisive, and incapable of being distracting. That is hyperfocus. To accomplish this state of mind, you need to prime yourself by only working on one task. Multitasking may seem more efficient a method, but it will ultimately cause your attention to scatter. Next, you must get rid of distractions. This includes internal ones such as the desire to check your phone or wander off to daydream. You can train yourself to ignore impulses to let your mind wander. Our brains process loads of data throughout our waking hours. Among what we see, feel, hear, smell, and think, our brains have to choose what it can give time and energy to. Based on research conducted by psychologist Timothy Wilson, our brains handle 11 million bits of information every second, but we can only process about 40. We can use meta-awareness to help filter out unwanted distractions and intrusive thoughts. Think of your focus like the sight of a gun. Anything can wander into it at any time. When you train your meta-awareness, you will be able to get rid of all the unnecessary thoughts that wander into that small area of your focus. Distractions can be killers of focus. Unfortunately, they tend not to be things we can predict or avoid completely. Before getting started on work, it helps to prime your workspace by getting rid of possible distractions. Make it hard for yourself to succumb to distractions by blocking social media websites and the like from your work device. Put your phone in another room or turn it on airplane mode. Non-physical stimuli are tougher to weed out. Intrusive thoughts are normal and can be like an itch. This is perfectly normal, and you shouldn't beat yourself up about it. One way to keep your focus is by writing the thought down and dealing with it later. You may find it easier to schedule a time for that so your brain knows you will come back to it. When you're hyper-focused on something, you're set on getting it done. It is a strategy that hinges on being in the present. However, this cannot be done unless you already have a plan of attack. A tough task can only be completed if you know how you're going to get there. When you daydream, your mind is wondering about the future. You can use scatter focus to help plan for what you wish to achieve when you're in hyperfocus mode. Scatter focus has 3 components that you can utilize consciously. The first is a capture mode that takes stock of the current situation and identifies what you need to do. Then, you have the problem crunching mode. It turns a particular issue around in your head and works to solve it. Finally, there is the habitual mode. That's when you're doing something you're already used to and your mind can wander while doing it. It leaves you capable of processing more thoughts while you physically work on something repetitive. When your brain is in scatter focus mode, you will find yourself with various thoughts floating in your head. It can be annoying, since everything seems random and unconnected, and they're probably throwing you off a course you'd rather be on. However, our brains tend to work on problems subconsciously even when we're not trying to. By letting your mind wander when it will, you might find yourself waking up with new insights and ideas, as if by magic. To stimulate this, it helps to have a physical list of problems you're thinking through, and your scatter focus will do the rest. Another way you can make sure your mind is primed for brainstorming is to consume knowledge. This can come in the form of media related to your field of work or study or something completely different. The brain can store infinite information. With all these bits of data floating around, it helps your scatter focus to make novel connections when you're not even looking.